Hey everyone, Jen back with another episode of the What's on the Burger podcast. I know I kind of stopped short last year of covering Bob's Burgers, but just got a lot of stuff going on and everything, so I decided to go ahead and actually come back in and at least finish up season one of this for y'all before going in and covering other shows and stuff as well. I'm trying to get a bunch of the season ones out. That way everybody's got maybe a show that they like that they want to watch or actually try or whatnot. And then start covering the season twos and whatnot. So anyway, though, this is season one, episode 4 of Bob's Burgers, Sexy Dance Fighting. So with this one, we kind of start out with Tina actually laying on the mats in the restaurant and just really bored, doesn't know what she's doing with life or anything else, and trying to really just, I think, get over herself. In this, Tina actually, I feel like was going through what a lot of us go through, probably like some early onset like depression or something like that. Just from probably not having a lot to do. This is after our Sacred Cow episode and a few of the other ones and how everything is and just in life. Tina's kind of one of those characters that's a little misunderstood on her reasoning and actually what she likes to do. She's all obsessed kind of with love, and she doesn't have anything going for her right now. And not only that, it is kind of the weekend at this point. It's a Saturday, and Tina just has nothing that she wants to do. I really think on weekends that Tina is probably like this a little more, unless she's around Jimmy Jr., but who really knows on that? But she kind of gets a little bit tricked-ish by Bob of them working on the grill, having father-daughter time. Bob sees it as he's connecting with her more than he can connect with the other kids because cooking the burgers and everything is something more that he likes. It's his dream, and Tina being able to experience with him actually is what he really enjoys. Now, Tina doesn't really see that, but we do have, as we move forward in this episode, of kind of what paces everybody is set at. Gene is the comedian that likes to kind of go after things, and Louise just likes to get into trouble. So, of course, with both of them, there's not really that much for Tina to actually do in terms of that stuff. She's not the big get into trouble kid, over just small things. So she finds kind of the smaller things in life to be fun, and she still wants to live kind of her life as being still able to enjoy things. Tina still enjoys unicorns and things like that when it's starting to get to the point where she feels like society tells her no, she can't really do that. But anyway, Gene and Louise went down the street somewhere and actually found a capoeira place. They didn't know what it was, if it was weird dancing or people needing to go to the bathroom or any of this other stuff. And they actually come back and get Tina to go with them because it's her break time. And they find out that it is capoeira. And Tina wants to join and actually be in this capoeira class, whether it's just learning something new or because of the quote-unquote sexy instructor that is their gyro. Which Gyro, I have to say, out of what we've seen so far, is one of the characters that I am really glad from what I have seen out of Bob's Burgers, which I believe is maybe like the first 6 seasons or so. He hasn't been back, and I actually like that because Gyro is just one of those characters, like, he doesn't really do anything that you can enjoy or like about him, and he's just kind of, I feel like everybody's kind of nightmare in this episode. So, we do have where he is doing capoeira and everything, and gives everybody videos to use. Now, I took some martial arts back in the day when I was younger, and I don't ever remember anybody giving out videos that weren't like promotional, or that you just knew about it. You know, you could sit in and watch the classes, maybe do like a couple free classes, see if you wanted to, and then set up a program, or something like that. The way he's kind of got his stuff, I feel like it is a little cheap because you're giving people something that they're going to have to come back and pay for. I kind of want to know if, in this episode, if Tina just kind of said, you know, we're just keeping the video, forget the rest of it, if he would come looking for her or whatever. So, we do have this. We have where she actually has more fun with it. She starts staying longer and longer and longer away from her duties that she has to Bob and to the restaurant, by staying around and, even though the class is over, actually doing the break time and staying there and doing more stuff, all for her crush Gyro. But with that, she does end up getting found out where Bob does go track her down, goes in, actually meets Gyro and everything. And this is something that I haven't seen carried over in any other episodes as well, but Bob's 4:30 meeting, I found that really funny, especially in this instance where Bob didn't know what all was going to happen, and Gyro turned around and basically knocked him on the ground multiple times, or just once in this period, actually, and knocked him on the ground to basically have him shit himself. That was probably the biggest and worst thing that could have happened at all in this, honestly, or to anyone. You know, I felt like with this, it was like a forced, what do people call it? When you shard, when you think you have to fart and there's a little more there. You know, I think that's kind of what this was, having this quote unquote big meeting at 4:30 and it not being a thing because of Gyro knocking Bob over and making him basically shit himself. So from there, you know, we do have where he goes home, he gets to wash himself off and everything else. And the kids all kind of think it's funny. But for Bob, it is a little mortifying, I believe. He didn't expect that he was going to have to do that. And he does realize a little more that he is going to have to put some kind of pressure on Tina for stuff, which he does tell Tina that she's not allowed to go back or anything else. And that's kind of the end of that until Louise intervenes and actually writes a letter to Gyro that Tina's kind of getting forced against her will to not be able to go and just sit there and cook and do everything else. And we do kind of have this little more confrontation from Gyro and Bob where they are kind of arguing back and forth about stuff. And Bob's trying to mock Gyro. And Gyro doesn't believe that's what he sounds like. But we do find out a bunch of this other stuff. Like, Gyro tries to present himself in a weird way. Kind of like he's almost like a big yogi workout person. But the weird thing is it doesn't really seem like he has any extra incentive, you know. He doesn't want to, at least from what we know, try and attract women to him, or anything else. So it's almost like he's just kind of like a workout junkie based off of this capoeira stuff. Um, no, I'm not exactly sure um, how viable it is. It would be good to know a little bit more of a backstory for this, I believe. At least from Gyro and how he did his capoeira stuff, or how he trained, I guess. But other than that, there's not really anything else to him. He is sitting there and tries to teach Bob sphincter stretches or whatever to help him out. Which that was one thing I really wonder too, how he brought that up and how he's talked a couple times. I wonder if Gyro actually is gay. Because he did say that, and he has said a couple other things. And like I said, like, there's not really anybody that seems very interested, or that he seems very interested in, except for kind of sort of this confrontation we have between him and Bob. It almost seems like Gyro can't let it go with Bob, which plays into it later on in the episode, which we actually don't have that much more of that to cover. But Gyro does have, I feel like, this draw to Bob, in some capacity. The other weird thing is we never really see the capoeira place ever again, so I really wonder how long it actually stayed here, if there was anything that happened to it, or maybe this incident kind of went from there. But we do have this event that's coming up, and I can't remember the name of it because it sounds really weird. And they make a joke about it because a bunch of people can't say it when they first hear it. But it is like the exchanging of their chords in capoeira to move up to like the next rank, the next like belt kind of thing. And it is pretty good in that sense because Tina does want that. She wants a rank and something to move in and move up, which is another thing that does get presented to her later on, as well in the episode that I enjoy. Now, the other thing that we do have with this is there is this kind of trade of power where Gyro asks Tina to come with him and Bob tells Tina to stay. And we have this, Tina, will you listen to your dad, or is she going to listen to her capoeira instructor? And in this instance, she does pick Gyro, and it does throw a wrench kind of into everything, I believe, with hers and Bob's relationship, at least in this episode. I think Bob is a good dad, all around, because even though he does have some problems with kids or whatever, they could headbutt, each other in one episode. At the end of the episode, be friends, and then have something else happen the next episode. So, it is kind of like a give and take, and I think that is a really good fatherly impression that Bob gives to us. So, but we do have this little thing where Gyro does try and drive the nail into Tina and Bob's relationship, and actually split them apart somewhat, which is, again, really weird for Gyro, because it almost seems like he tried to do it, honestly, just to get closer to Bob in some ways. But again, we don't exactly know, because Gyro doesn't actually give off anything except for how he kind of goes after Bob in this episode. Hey everyone, and we are back with Season 1, Episode 4, Sexy Dance Fighting. What's on the Plate, a Bob's Burgers podcast kind of thing. So getting back into this, we had this ending off last part. We had where Bob and Gyro, their fight and how things are happening to split up Tina from one or the other. Now she ends up picking Gyro, and the rest of the family's kind of like, well, just let her go. Things will happen from there. You know, she can't always kind of stay one of your little girls, Bob. And we do get parts in this, with this part, that they're doing the exchanging of the cord ceremony and whatnot. And that Bob has decided that he's not going, the rest of the family has, and that they are going to go watch Tina do this stuff. Now, this does prove kind of hectic, because while they are at this thing, Mort and Teddy come in to have their burgers, which I like this as we go forward too, that Mort and Teddy actually are in more on a regular basis. We get to see them as regular characters. I feel like season 1, it's a little shaky, and it mostly focuses on Bob and the Belchers, but then as we kind of start steamrolling along, we do see Teddy almost every episode. We almost see Mort every episode. We see the other kids almost every episode. So I like how Bob's Burgers kind of fleshed out a little more. But we do have this part right here where Bob is talking to them, and Teddy says something that is just random, like what he always says, but it pertains to the episode. So I like how they try and use Teddy in that essence as well sometimes. But basically saying that Tina is growing up and she's not always going to be Bob's little girl, as we kind of said earlier. But in this instance, it's what Teddy said. And since Teddy is kind of one of Bob's usuals and Bob's friends, that they can also have that kind of, I guess, like brotherly love where they can fight and get over it themselves if they are fighting or anything. But we also have where he says that part, and it really dawns on Bob that him making the decision to not go see Tina is not in the best interest for him, because at some point this could push them farther apart and could be the first milestone of that. So he does realize a little more that, hey, even though this happened and she didn't pick me, I still need to be the best supportive parent that I can be, and ends up closing the shop so that he can go to the capoeira dojo thing to watch Tina get her cord. He walks in to see one other kid doing it, and again, like I said earlier, I really think that Gyro has a love-hate relationship with Bob, because the kid that's up there at the time is pretty crappy at doing what he's supposed to be doing, his katas or whatever. And Gyro gives him the string. Now, whether he saw Bob before this or after this plays into it a little more. I know it gets kind of thrown in that he sees Bob afterwards, that Gyro sees Bob afterwards, but I really think, too, that he kind of saw him beginning, too. And there might be a slim chance the reason why the kid in front of Tina got a court, even though he does a lot worse than she does, is because Gyro wanted to really push that, basically Tina's not worthy enough kind of thing. And then, Tina does better than him, but then Gyro denies her a thing, all from Bob. And then we kind of go into this, which is what I brought up earlier. We go into where Bob and Gyro again go into this line of things, and Bob says, I am ready. I am not going to shit myself or anything else. I've experienced it one before. I know what to do. And just going from there. And Bob kind of does the whole, when you fall, you get back up thing. He keeps getting knocked over by Gyro, kicked and leg sweeps, and Ponytail hits him in the face and knocks him over. Doing all this stuff because Gyro has this vendetta against him. Now, as we go further into the episode more, because we're right here at the end, though. The kids start to realize that Gyro is not really as good as they were led to believe. You know, Gyro is a bully, basically. He is doing this to Bob and won't stop and just keeps going. And at some point, you know, it doesn't turn into a game. And as it happens, the kids did start cheering for Gyro at the beginning. And as it happens, different kids are asking their parents, you know, to get Gyro to stop doing that to Bob, and to really just stop the whole thing in general, as well as to allow them to continue everything else. Now, Gyro doesn't, and the kids do start cheering for Bob at some point, but they call him Dad, obviously, because of it coming from Tina and Louise and whatnot. But I do wonder, because this is also something, like I said earlier, of we never see Gyro again, we never see the capoeira place or anything else like that, that this could be a pivotal role that actually made Gyro have to close the capoeira dojo studio thing down, because of everybody leaving and not believing in him anymore for going after Bob. It's never really said, it's never really stated, but we've never seen it again, and we've never seen anybody walk past the store or anything else. So this could be an option of why we haven't seen that stuff again before, in any of the future episodes so far, at least up to episode or season 6 that I've seen. So to do that, and to have all this, and to wrap up the rest of the episode, they do get done. They go back, and it's Tina and Bob at the grill again, talking about the stuff that happened and how Bob got through it basically without shitting himself. And Bob and his wife are going to let Tina off to have a break and go from there. And she says, no, I think I'm right where I need to be, which is working with Bob on the grill. And he jokingly gives her a pair of yellow rubber gloves to use however she wants, instead of getting this yellow cord that she was going to get from Gyro. So it does present like another level class kind of thing for her, which is pretty funny in that instance as well. So and that is basically where our episode ends, is with Tina coming back, working on the grill, and going from there. It really just having this kind of family father-daughter moment with Bob, and it actually meaning something, I feel like. I think that's another good part of Bob's Burgers, is the family aspect and how it all kind of gets laid out and whatnot, especially for different characters and how it happens. So anyway, if you guys think of any other questions with this episode, or about Bob's Burgers in general, or any other shows, message us at Otakuology podcast at YouTube, or not YouTube, yahoo.com, or not Yahoo, Gmail, and we will get those answered as best we can. As always, thanks for listening, and see you next Tuesday. Stay tuned for more great content from the Otakuology podcast. We'll catch you later.